Welcome, everybody, to Tales from the Cage. We are back yet again. And today we have a unique episode. All right, because we have a local fighter, which is our theme. But 1/3 of his fights were local, 2/3 were actually out of state, including out of the country multiple times. So he's almost like one of those unsung heroes in the local MMA scene that wasn't always fighting locally. But I think his story really needs to be told because he was more active than most of the local pro fighters during his time. It was just in different states and different countries. So we're going to dive into this because this is actually pretty cool. Larry, how's it going?
Hey, doing well, Matt. Thanks a lot for having me on.
So on paper, it has your first fight, and I think I'm right. Obviously, looking at this, but you fought Albert Aravalo as your first fight at TFC, or no?
No, that's correct. Yeah, that's right.
And I could be butchering his last name. Did you know
I think it's
anything?
Aravela, but yeah.
Okay. Did you know anything about him before that fight?
No, not really. No, this was like pretty close after my 18th birthday. Knew I was having a pro fight, and I knew he was coming out of I think he was coming out of Corral's gym
He was
even
Taurus.
also. Oh, he was Torres.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Oh, yeah, he was Torres. So yeah, no, then obviously no, I knew nothing about him. But yeah, I came in. I was just excited to fight. It was my first fight, pro fight. I didn't know anything really. I think he was either like 0-0 also or 0-1. Like I don't think he had a win at the time. So I knew he was fairly new.
He so I rolled with him when I was in high school. I went to Miguel's gym a little bit, just kind of under the radar. And he may have been the first person I ever rolled with over there when I was much younger. He was tough. He had a record that wasn't that good on paper, his whole fight career, actually, but he was way better than what his record showed, I'd say. Did you know anything about Miguel, his
Oh
coach?
yeah. No,
Okay.
no, Miguel I knew very well at the time. He was already making a name for himself by like the time I had my first fight. He Like I can't remember. I think he just had maybe his first loss against Ackerman.
Ryan Ackerman.
Either it was somewhere right around there, but he was already making a name for himself. He was like real slick with the submissions, and like obviously very renowned with jujitsu and everything. So Miguel, I knew very well. And it's actually funny now saying this because like even now I didn't know that. I think I more associate the guy with Corral than with Torres, and Miguel Torres actually talked to me after that fight, so I didn't even know that that was his guy that like I was talking to
Yeah.
after I fought him. But yeah, that's all right. Good,
Yeah, no, that was
hindsight.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
Miguel's. So at that time, who were your when you were training for that fight? We're gonna go back, but I wanted to lead with that fight. You mentioned that it was kind of around the time when Miguel lost. So when he did to Ryan Ackerman, Joey was actually on the card. That's when he fought Derek Noble. So this is at a time when Joey Gilbert was
Right.
actively fighting. Was you
Yeah.
guys were around the same size? And I've seen you guys go a lot, but this was before I even ever stepped foot in G2, 4 years before I did. Were you two consistent training partners at the time, or was it just,
Me and Joey.
yeah?
Oh yeah. I mean, God, dude, at that time there were only so many people in our gym. I think it was like the main training partners were the regulars, I should say, were like me, Joey Gilbert, Tommy Lee, Jay Buck. I don't even think Clay was there at the time. I think this is before his time. Maybe John Gorecki. There were only so many people in this gym, and then there were people filtering in and out kind of regularly. My buddy, who actually got me into Gilbert's Tim Wilson, just a dude I wrestled with. Um, so yeah, no, but I would go with Joey a lot just because there really wasn't that much. There wasn't really too many other people to roll with. So yeah, I'd be rolling with Joey a lot during this time.
Was that your first gym that you were training at?
Yeah, I've only been a Gilbert Grappler. Literally just started Gilbert's and finished with Gilbert's.
Did you do? I remember hearing this, but I don't think I ever asked it. Did you do Golden Gloves?
Yeah, I was a Golden Gloves runner up when I was 16. I got into Golden Gloves. I was Golden Gloves actually it was just a I guess I just did it because I wanted to work on my hands for MMA. Like I always knew I wanted to do MMA. And I always liked boxing. Like I've always been interested in boxing, always watched boxing. But it was more just John Gorecki was the boxing coach at the time. Um, he just basically said, "Hey, Chicago Golden Gloves coming up. You want to do it?" And me and another buddy from high school who was kind of training at the time too, Chris Graziani, we both just said, yeah, we'll do it, and signed up. So I did Golden Gloves. And honestly, like I'm saying runner up, but like what was it, my first fight? I don't know. I I like got like a bye my first round because only so many people entered, and then I won my second fight. And so the last fight, like out of two fights, so the second one was the championship one. And I think my opponent's name was Jose Hernandez, if I'm remembering it correctly. I was, God, 16. I'm 37 now, so this is
Yeah.
quite a while ago. But yeah, like it was a fun experience. It was like a good, really good time. But I remember just using that as like I wanted to work on my hands and get in competition just for getting into MMA.
So would you say at that time you're primarily working on boxing? So,
So I mostly did jujitsu and wrestling, and then when I started training Golden Gloves, like I just did boxing. I actually stopped doing jujitsu for whatever, maybe the 2 months or 3 months I was training boxing. So like 2, 3 months, I did nothing but boxing.
now you, at least when I got there in 2009, you and Gino, I thought had like superior stand up than most of the people there. At least, like I said, when I was there, and definitely a more superior ground game and jujitsu awareness at that time. I would say like 2 out of 3, or maybe even a higher odd than that. Like 3 out of 4 people at the time when I got in there, just straight takedown, ground and pound. If you got taken down, stand up. Where did that come from when it comes to like an actual and you and Gino's great game was a little bit different. I feel like you guys kind of work on your body style. He's taller and lengthy, you're shorter and
Yeah.
stocky. You were like more of a headhunter, a guillotine guy, north south choke. Gino was triangle to armbar to omoplata off his back type. But nonetheless, you guys had a lot more active submission game than most of the people. Is it just something that you guys had interest in, or what was that?
No, yeah, actually that's exactly it. Like so me and Gino, like even when at our youngest, we're 3 years apart, but like as soon as I can remember, he was the same size as me. You know what I mean? Like he's my younger brother that became my exact same size, like almost immediately, like from memory. So like, and we were always interested first in like professional wrestling. So like we would be doing all those moves and stuff, and like I'd be power bombing him, torture racking him, and stuff like that. And then when what was it, the first UFC, which I think was 93, and I would have been like 6 years old. He would have been like, God, maybe 7 years old or something. He would have been like four or something. I, saw Hoist Gracie and what he was doing to the bigger guys. And me, I've always been small. So like seeing this small guy like doing all this to the bigger guys, was very interested in what he was doing, watching the chokes, the arm bars, and everything. So even before we got into training, I was mimicking what I saw in like on the TV, just doing arm bars, doing chokes, doing like when I, later on with Ken Shamrock and stuff like that, doing the ankle locks, and basically just from visuals, just looking at it, trying to mimic it, on my younger brother. And we even there, I think, kind of gave us a little bit of a base because once I started at Gilbert Grappling, I was like doing these moves, maybe only semi correctly, but having that kind of like start of being aware of like these submissions and what to go for, and at least like, applying the pressure that hurts, like I think I had a little bit of a running start there, because of like me and my brother just like messing around with each other at a young age. And, the more we learned and the more we were taught, I think it allowed us to catch on quicker. So, I guess that's what I would attribute it to, just like kind of having a very early interest in it and kind of like, really like, I mean, I was obsessed with MMA when I was younger, like, I mean, I used to go to Family Video and rent the videotapes, like, of all the UFCs, like, I mean, I rented them all. I knew all the fighters, I knew how they won and what time they won and like, how, like everything. So yeah, it was that early interest and just kind of that, like visualizing what they were doing and trying to mimic it, having my grappling partner being my younger brother to practice on, that when we were actually taught these moves and, proper technique, I think it allowed us to kind of grasp it a little bit faster and, catch on a little bit quicker.
Right. So after you fight Albert, a few months later, you face Chad Lindy at the Madtown Throwdown. That's in Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh yeah.
Um, on online, it says a TKO at 5 minutes. So was it a not responding to the next round, or?
So actually, wait, no, actually, I mean, it went to, so that's actually probably like that was the fight that made me aware that I can do this.
Yeah.
Um, so what happened was we did 3 rounds. It was only supposed to be a 2-round fight. And back in the day, back at this time, there were no commissions. So like they allowed head stomps to the ground in this
That's what I was
fight.
going
They
to
allowed
ask
soccer.
next.
Yeah, they allowed soccer kicks. They allowed pretty much everything.
Because the
Um,
Madtown Throwdown was known for that. I remember around when they kind of started taking off, a friend of mine in Indianapolis, or not Indianapolis, somewhere in
Wisconsin.
northern Indiana, wanted us to go, hey, let's fight at Madtown Throwdown. They allow head stomps. It's like Pride, but in a cage. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. No, yeah. So like it was originally supposed to be just 2 5-minute rounds. And then I guess like they like that's what it was supposed to be. Then I guess they thought he won one round, I won one round. And so they were like, all right, you guys are doing a third round. And basically in that third round, I remember I had never felt exhaustion like this in my life. Like when they announced there was going to be a third round, I remember just being like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like fucking just like it was just one of those things where I was like, I'm telling, like, even in that second round, I had his back, I think, and I was trying to choke him, and there was just no muscle in my arms, like just nothing.
Yeah.
And so, like, I remember being like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I was like, all right, dude, I can take this guy down. I'm gonna try to take him down. And the round starts, and like I just attempt the worst possible. I basically just shot my head into the ground, and he just like kind of got on top of me, and I was able to get position. And like there has never been like a more just like you just feel helpless. Like it's just like there's nothing I can do. I have no strength, no energy. And he was pretty tired too, but he had enough in him to where like he was landing some like decent shots here and there. And I remember at one point he just like grabbed my Adam's apple and was just trying to like squeeze it. And I think the ref at the time was Matt Garrity. He was a fighter too. I'm
Brian
forgetting his
Garrity?
first name. Brian Garrity. I don't
Brian
know where I
Garrity,
got
yeah.
the M from.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's out
And
of
like he was
Gage.
like, dude, yeah. And he was even like, dude, get off his windpipe, and like slapped his arm off. I'm like, okay, sweet. That kind of saving me right now. And then right after that, he just started landing like a bunch of elbows. And like at no point was I like hurting or worried. Well, I mean, I was probably hurting, but like, not worried or anything. But I just remember being like, this sucks. And
Yeah.
finally they stopped it from like the elbows. But yeah, that's actually like that was the pivotal fight in my career. It was my second one. It taught me a couple things. One, just like I thought I was in shape, and I realized like I'm not even close to the type of shape you need to be in to do this. Like especially since it was only a 2-round fight that they went into a third round and I had nothing left like at the end of the second round. And two, just like I realized after like the beating I guess I took, like it didn't hurt. Like if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
I kind of got my ass whooped, but it wasn't like I was like, I'm not hurting. I'm not, like it was just like I could actually do this. So like I learned a lot from that fight, just in terms of like, okay, like that's probably the worst that this can get. So just let's make some corrections, get in better shape, and you definitely can do this.
So after that, you go on a 5-fight win streak. You finish your next fight against John Herring at XFO 18. Do you remember where he was training out of?
John Herring.
It's a first round rear naked
No,
choke.
no, I don't remember. Oh, never mind. Was he might have been a Curran guy.
That's what I was wondering for an earlier XFO. Well, they're 18th, but
No. That wasn't no, he wasn't a Curran guy. I'm getting them mixed up. No, him, I actually don't know where he was from. He was a little bit older than me at the time. I think he was like mid to late 20s.
Mhm.
But no, I do remember that fight now. And I know I didn't have much information on. That was a sweet fight though. They like let us stay at like a water park. Like we had like free admission to like a water park. And like we were going down water slides like beforehand.
Where was that? Was that the
Not not the wilderness,
oh, but that was
but
the Wisconsin Dells one, right?
yeah, it was Wisconsin Dells. It was
Okay.
close to
Yeah.
Wisconsin Dells. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I thought it was that one. All right. Then you go to Extreme Challenge out in Iowa. You beat Robert Martin in 33 seconds by TKO. And then your next one, you're back local. So I was there for this one. I actually used to have a video of this a long time ago. It was on those mini DV tapes long ago
Yeah.
now. But it was at C3 Summer Fight Fest. It was the outdoor one where it was really rainy that day and
The
it
rainy.
was
Yeah,
slip and
yeah,
slide.
yeah.
I'm guessing Keith Wisniewski refed your fight. I could be
Not Keith,
wrong.
his brother.
Okay, Justin did.
Justin did, yeah.
Okay, because I remember Keith, Justin, and Joey Gilbert all refing that night. It was kind of just the last minute. There's no commission, so it was kind of
Yeah.
all right. Who could we get here to be judges? Who could we get to ref? obviously Ray Flores was ring announcing. Ray and I were the matchmakers for the majority of those fights. I think that was the first, may have been the first event where Ray and I got anyone from G2 on a card. I think, could be wrong, but I think so, for a C3 event anyway.
Yeah.
Because I remember there's a few of you guys. I remember seeing Joey there. I think that was the first time I actually saw Joey in person. So what are your memories of that slip and slide pretty much? Because that shit
No,
was
that actually
intense.
like that one, yeah, that one I remember very well because of that. Like it was yeah, very rainy. We fought under pancrase rules. And basically if you knock the guy down, they get a standing A count and
Shootout
then
rules.
shootout rules, my
Yeah.
bad, shootout rules,
Yeah.
not pancrase. Yeah, so like I remember if you knock the guy down, they'd get like a standing A count and like they can get back up. And I remember by the time, I can't remember where it was on the card, but by the time we were in there, I mean, it was just slick. Like it was so hard to get footing. That was an insane match. But I do remember there was like I was confused because I actually like hit a really good right on the guy. I can't remember what round, like pretty early on, and I knock him down. And then I'm waiting for them to do the standing A count. And then, like, because I remember the rules, then all of a sudden they don't do anything. And then so I go back and I start punching them in the head. And then all of a sudden they stop me and do the standing A count. So, like, there was a lot of confusion going on in this fight. But it was like, I think, especially being that was still fairly early in my career, like having that slip and slide, I, like I remember watching this fight. Like I had this fight on something. In fact, I may even still have this fight on something. Like even like it might be saved to my Facebook or something. But like I remember I performed very well. And I actually think the whole like dynamic of not thinking because trying to just retain balance almost helped me in that fight. Because like I remember like my combos looked good. I hit a really good armbar, which the slip probably the slickness of the ring probably helped out with that. But like yeah, like that was like nuts where it was outdoor, raining. There were fights that were much worse than like mine, where like dudes were like trying to throw kicks and just completely like
Oh yeah.
their feet coming out under them. Like that was a nuts like event, but it was like a fun one.
I remember, I mean that there was such bad thunderstorms. So if somebody's listening and they weren't there, it was an outdoor event. That's why it was so slippery, and it was in a ring too. I remember all the thunderstorms, and this is Northwest Indiana, so generally the wind and the rain clouds come from the west and they go to the east. So I remember calling my parents because I was already at the venue, the Wicker Memorial Park, and I remember calling my parents because they live in Chicago, asking like, "Hey, is it raining by you guys?" We're trying to predict. This is before the weather apps and stuff on your phone. I
Yeah.
had a flip phone, like, "Hey, is it raining right now?" And like, hoping they would say no, it's not, and that means all right, it's past or whatever, or oh, it's bad, then shit, we're gonna have. But yeah, that was an event where we almost thought we were gonna have to cancel that day, which like obviously we didn't. But yeah, there was some effects to that rain, that's for sure.
No, I want to say it. I even remember, I think my dad, this I even think was after my fight, but he had a couple drinks in him as you do in an MMA fight. And he like grabbed like a cloth from like the table and was like trying to wipe the ring down with it or something.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that fight was nuts. Like you totally went within the right to like cancel it, but I feel like everyone there had a good time. Like,
No, yeah,
and like,
those were
yeah.
fun.
And no one got hurt, like, from it. So like that's really like no one had like the slip, tear their ACL moment.
Right.
So, it all worked out.
Right. And that's the negative thing about outdoor events, is that could always happen.
Yeah.
It was definitely a fun one. We did 3 that summer. We did a June, July, August one. But that was the rainy one. Even I remember, I think there was a September Dueling Classic outside. It was either really late August or early September. Weather was still decent, but all that dew and condensation from fall coming around. That's when Darren Elkins got his first loss. I was the timekeeper. He fought Ted Worthington, and it was a
Yeah.
total slip. He slipped like into some punches and then slipped, and
Right.
the ref ran in and stopped it. And I will say who it is, great guy though. And he after that, he even knew. He's like, he asked me, he was sitting next to me the whole time. He's like, did I mess up on that one? I told him, I'm like, from your vantage point, it looked like it was I get it. Like, it's just so
Was
rainy
it
and slippery.
This was Indiana. This was Indiana
Yeah.
Commission.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I know who it is then too.
Yeah. Not a commission. There was no commission.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but again, because there's no commission, it was, all right, let's find like like a coach, a credible coach. He's a great coach.
Right. Okay.
He's he's cornered people in the UFC. Great guy.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, it was just one of those things where you're slipping and falling, and it just sucks sometimes, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it happened.
So you get another local fight at XFO 26 against Chris Hart after that, and that's another like last time you fought at XFO was 33 seconds. Now you went in 34 seconds. This time with one of your signatures, a guillotine. Did you know anything about your opponent for that?
No, in fact, I didn't even have the right name. Originally they were calling him Corey Hart, and so I was like, just thinking that like, I wear my sunglasses at night, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't even have the right guy to look up. The only thing I knew is I can't remember Joey's brother, Joey and Danny's brother, like was from around the same area as the guy or something, and he told me he's like, yeah, the dude's supposed to be like, kind of good. He's supposed to have some decent hands and decent wrestling or something. So like just the generics, like the guy's supposed to be pretty good.
Right.
I knew he was fighting out of Currens, I believe. This guy. So and I knew a little. I knew about the Current gym and like that their jujitsu base basically, but didn't know too much. But to be honest, like even starting from the beginning of my career to the end of my career, I was never really big on looking much into my opponents.
Mm.
Whether that was good or bad, I always just kind of had the mindset that no matter what they're good at shouldn't affect my game plan because things happen there, things change. I don't want to stick to something that could go wrong and be stuck trying to do something that's not working. So like I've always been more of like I need to be able to adapt to any situation. So I was never big in looking into my opponents anyway.
Now at that time, it was John Gorecki booking you fights, right?
Say that again?
It was John Gorecki
Yeah,
booking you fights, right?
yeah, it was John Gorecki. Yeah.
So at this time, were they telling you who you were fighting, or was it a secret?
No, no, they tell me the name of the guy.
Okay.
Like, yeah. I mean, yeah, at least I would know the name and like maybe the gym they were fighting from. It's not like they would give me like a lot of details because again at the time too, like, like the internet was what it is today. Like you need to find the guy's MySpace or something. And
Right.
like,
Right.
like there wasn't like all this data and like YouTube. Like if a dude's fight was on YouTube, they put it up themselves or something like that, or like a
Right.
friend. Like there to find info on an actual fighter, especially early on in your career, like when guys like only have so many fights, you couldn't get that much information anyway.
Right. Yeah, the reason why I ask is I remember my first couple of fights, it was a secret, and I don't remember if it was like Danny and John's idea or if it was Tony Bilas who just wouldn't tell me because I would ask Tony who am I fighting, and he would like, I can't tell you, I can't tell you, it's a secret. And I think I finally went to Danny and told him like, because he didn't know me that well at the time, because I kind of like I was already trained before I came from Team Corral, so I was like when I went to G2, it was hey, I want to fight. I'm already ready to go. Kind of. I need to like get in better shape, but like I don't really need to learn much for my first, but at least that's what my opinion was.
No, I got you.
But you know what I mean? Like so, like
Good to have
it
confidence.
like basically is I kind of hit the ground running there. Like as soon as I got in, I was already talking to Danny about hey, I want to get in there. I've been training X amount of years. Here's all my grappling credentials, the tournaments I've won, blah blah blah. All right, cool. So like I didn't know him that well for my first couple fights, and I finally like went to talk to him one day. I'm like, dude, I don't like not knowing who I'm fighting. I'm like, but the main thing is like, I get you're keeping it secret from fighters because it doesn't want to get in their heads. But I told him like, I used to matchmake for C3. I know who half of these guys are. Like, I'm in the business on the other side. Like, I really do
Right.
know who these. You know what I mean? Like, and
Well,
like,
also like too, like that doesn't always work. Like you really have to find out what kind of mindset your fighter has. Like some dudes, like maybe it will be better off that they don't know, so they don't get in their own head. But some dudes, you're getting in their head by not telling them, and
right,
like they're
right,
stressing over that. So like that's one of those things where like you really need to figure out like, all right, what's working out best for the fighter? Like, does he like to know who it is? Does he want
right,
to study his tapes? Is that going to
right.
make him feel more confident and ready to go, or is it one of those people who are like, all right, if he studies too much, is he going to be stressing over one specific thing? Not concentrate on his overall goal of what he needs to do. So that to me is like a mix and match. But like like if you want to know who your opponent is, like that's how you feel, like fucking yeah, tell the dude who his opponent is. Like
And you know what's funny is I think I won Danny's respect over that for that was when so for my third fight he finally shows me a text and said, all right, this is your opponent, and it said like Gerald Williams 2-4 or something, and I immediately like, all right, well that's the wrong spelling because they're obviously spelling it wrong, so I can't look them up. I've seen him fight multiple times, and that's not his record. So tell them I said nice try, but yeah, I'll take the fight.
Right, right.
And I think that's when he's like,
Right,
all right,
right,
he actually doesn't know what he's talking about,
right.
But
Like I've actually
doesn't
booked
have
this
that
guy a
many
couple
losses.
times,
He
so
has
yeah.
more wins. But but I
Right,
mean, but that's what people would do at the time too, is like slightly change the spelling of the name so you can't look them up, and then
right.
fabricate the record on either less fights or more losses just to make them more sellable.
No, right, right, right. I mean, especially you can get away with that so much easier back in the day. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like
Right.
there weren't these like, database websites of like that, that you're submitting these fights to commissions and stuff like that. And like, I mean, you could get away with anything back in the day.
Oh, exactly. So you fight over for Cutthroat at the time at Lockdown and Lull,
Butterbean.
DC's Country Junction event.
Yeah.
I
Owls
asked,
on the ceilings, like keeping the birds out. That place was awesome.
what was your first thought when you walked into there?
This is awesome.
Yeah.
No, like it was just funny. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, oh my God. Like the thing about that fight too is a bunch of us were on that card. That actually like for like not being one of like it wasn't like it was there. God, I wish I could remember better, but like I know I was on it. I think Joe Benoit was on it.
Was
Tommy Lee was on it. We had I feel like
Tommy was
even a
on
few
it,
other guys.
Gino
In fact, yeah, and that one too, my opponent got switched. It was originally supposed to be Lloyd Carter. He got in a car accident and could like they had to make a last minute switch. But the biggest thing I remember is Butterbean was headlining that fight, and he was like staying or he was like there was like the barn or whatever it was, like the grill barn, and then there was like this house apparently like just down the street, like yeah, that's where Butterbean's at, just hanging out over there. And then like finally came back for his fight. But yeah.
so the
Oh,
full
Gino, that was Gino's first fight, I think.
Gino fought.
Yeah.
Was that I think I know the answer, but was that when they were still using the red and white candy cane looking cage? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
exactly right. Yeah,
Heath cage, yeah. So all right. So on that card out of G2, you had Joe Benoit. You had, I remember, I think he put the guy to sleep. Or he TKO'd him pretty bad.
no, I said no. That was another guillotine. I did get like a really good right hand on him because I remember after
Oh
the
no,
fight
I
I
meant
got
Joe
like,
Benoit, but I think he knocked the guy out. I could be wrong.
oh
So he fought a guy named Jake Himes.
yeah,
Maybe I'm just used to his opponent going. He would never tap to choke. So he every
yeah,
fight.
no, that did happen. That did
Yeah,
happen.
he would
Joe put
never
him to
tap.
sleep. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Gino fought. Butterbean's son actually fought on that. Danny
That's
fought.
right. That's also right.
Tommy Lee fought. That was like a 9-second fight or so. John Colossi,
Yeah.
I think he anaconda choked the guy. Butterbean was main event. I won't blow the cover too much, but that his opponent was under a fake name, a fake first name anyway. I'll just leave it.
Oh, okay.
But
Interesting.
as we're on the topic of fake names, his opponent
Right.
100% for a reason used a different first name. So okay, so after this, I remember this fight. I mean, obviously I wasn't there; it was an out-of-state fight. But you go down to Missouri and you fight Jose Vega out of Arizona Combat Sports, where it's a gym from Cain Velasquez,
Yeah.
Steve Galloway, Ryan Bader. Did that get in your head at all or no?
I wouldn't say it got in my head. No. I was told he was good. That was about it. And like, I didn't really know too much. I think I actually saw like an interview of his or something. That was like the most of it. Cause like I said, I always, for some reason, had the mindset I didn't want to know too much about my opponent. That was always more comfortable for me. I wanted to go in there and just like, we'll see what we do. But yeah, yeah, I remember that one. That was another one too, where just like, yeah, just, that was not one of my best performances.
So you have a couple more fights. I'm going to fast forward to another local one now. This was at the Hammond Civic Center, legendary venue. How some of the best fighters in the area throughout the years and fighters that were brought in, such as Jeff Monson, so on and so forth,
Yeah.
throughout the years. Ryan Hall, we had
Yeah.
Melvin Gillard. I mean, even just going up to the most recent fights, at least that I've been involved in. You face Dan Aguirre. Now, this was one of those fights where, like I was talking about at the beginning, where maybe a lot of people didn't know who you were locally, especially at that time when there's fights at Bourbon Street every 2 months. There's fights at XFO like constant, just playing ping pong. A lot of people knew who Dan Aguirre was because he solely fought locally, and a lot of people who were just casual fans of local MMA, weren't too familiar with you. Fight goes to a split decision. Now, I was there doing photos at Cage Side for that. You were not too happy with the decision. I would probably say the majority of the crowd wasn't. I wasn't. I think there were some issues in the crowd where police had to get involved. If I remember correctly, maybe I don't. But it was a very controversial decision. What are your thoughts on that fight?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I won. Don't get me wrong, like I got to know, especially like Mr. Gary, Danny's dad. He became like one of my biggest fans after that fight. Like,
Yeah,
like
nice
I
guy.
dropped down. Yeah, after they're really great people. And I'm not talking down about the Garys at all. Danny was an awesome fighter. We had a really good fight. Like just overall, like I felt like everything damage wise and control wise and everything that goes into a fight, I was, had the better of. The only thing that I think might have swayed a little bit is, he was 6'1", I'm 5'4", and he was throwing a lot of knees, but his knees, it was all the fat of his knee catching my forearms, like
Mm,
I'm just checking them. So like he would do that, and I would just sit there checking a couple knees, and then we go at maybe throw some bodies, go to the head. And like I don't know if that just maybe looked real good, but like that's another thing you got to learn playing this game is like visuals are a big part of it. Like
right.
just because it's not hurting you, if it looks good to the judges or it looks good to the crowd, that's working against you, and you're not actively like you're defending, but you're not actively like doing anything. So I actually thought like I landed way more. I controlled the ground way more. Like I really don't feel like the only knee he actually landed was the one illegal knee where like he was actually
I
able to catch
remember
me off
that.
balance. I tripped down. He knees me in the face. And it is funny though, because like I actually really like like I felt it, I took it, but I had a really good chin at the time, really good head. So I actually wasn't hurt at the time, but they allowed me like some like injury time. And I remember be like, all right, I'm tired as fuck right now. I'm gonna take this and like we'll just chill for a little bit. I think there was like a minute left in the fight anyway. Then me and him had
Yeah.
like a nice little scrap brawl to finish it out, pretty exciting. But like at the very end of the fight, I was like, all right, I totally won that. Like I really was just like, yeah, I definitely won that. I feel like I won all 3 rounds. Maybe it'll give them like this last round because of that, illegal knee type of deal. And like, I look tired, but I really didn't see that one going his way. But I mean, that's what happens. I'm not the first one to say that. I'm not going to be the last one. And obviously I'm biased.
So now you fight out of town again, and then you're brought back locally at Hoosier Fight Club, HFC 10. You fought at 145 against Nick Wayne. Refresh my memory. Was this a kind of a last minute short notice fight or no that you took?
Yeah. It was. I mean, I was training. In fact, that was the fight where I really started taking my conditioning seriously. Like we started a whole new conditioning program, me and Danny, and like was trying to get in the best shape like that I could. I was like, all right, I need to like step up to another level because like I said, even with that Danny and Gary fight, I was like, all right, I think I'm in better shape, but like I'm still getting too tired in this cage. Like I'm getting way too tired, and it's affecting my performance way too much. So like we needed to step up my conditioning because I've always been, I don't want to say naturally strong. I think a lot of my strength and like grab, like I've wrestled since I was 11, but like even as I told before, like I've been throwing around my brother who's been my size like since, I can remember. And I think that really helped develop my fast twitch muscle. But like, so I've always been pretty strong, but for some reason, like my cardio has always been absolute garbage. Like I really have to work hard to maintain cardio. And after like even that fight, like I remember like, all right, we need to switch somewhere. I need to really get in a lot better condition. So we started working on my conditioning a lot, but taking the fight was on short notice. Like I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
in shape. So I don't want to say
Right.
I wasn't in shape. I was in probably the best shape I've been in like, ever. But all of a sudden, it's like, hey, you ready to fight? I was like, yeah, dude, I'm definitely ready to fight. They're like, it's at 145. I was like, yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
And and I knew a little bit about Nick Wayne. I've seen him like he was from the Indiana area.
Yeah.
And also I just needed to get back in there and I needed to see like, how I was feeling. So we took the fight at 145 and it was on short notice, but I was definitely in really good shape at the time. So it was just a short notice take. It wasn't like I was sitting on the couch not doing anything.
Right. Okay, so after that, now we're talking about earlier fighters with fake names, this and that. There's a first time for everything, at least first time I've heard of it, faking a nationality. Uh,
Yeah.
so
The
now,
cat's out of the bag now.
so cat's out of the bag. It's been years. Are you okay with talking about this?
Oh, absolutely. Like I was okay with talking about it even a little bit after that. Like, yeah, I mean, it's funny and like I honestly feel like they knew. Like, but yeah,
They did. Well, they kind
yeah,
of. All right, because all right, so Larry, your next fight, his next fight's at Max FC 14. It was in Puerto Rico, right?
yeah. It's in Puerto
In
Rico.
Mexico. Okay, so it's Puerto Rico versus Mexico, and as that sounds, it's Puerto Rican fighters versus Mexican fighters.
That's
Um,
right.
I think Mike David and Tony Bialis had to send someone down, and they they couldn't get anybody, so they sent you saying just say that you're Mexican. I think they wanted to call yourself Lorenzo DiGiulio. And my favorite part was I think it had to be like after weigh-ins or something. There was like a pre-fight interview, and they must have like I don't know if word got out or what, or they just figured it out at the event where they're like they asked you like, hey, a lot of people are saying you're not Mexican, you don't speak Spanish, anything. And you're like, no, I am Mexican. My mom is. You kind of had to like run with this.
We had a story. Like we had to go to.
That's
Like,
what I was
yeah,
gonna ask.
yeah.
How pre-planned was this?
I mean, it wasn't like it was like very elaborate. We just had talking points. I can't even remember. They gave me like a small city, like outside or a small town village outside of Mexico City that my mother was from, from. And like, she was 100% Mexican. And like, and I remember them being like, so like you're, Mexican, but you don't speak Spanish. It's like, yeah, I was lived in America my whole life. I never needed to learn Spanish. But like I'm gonna fight strong. I think I'm quoted saying like, but I'm gonna fight strong with my Mexican heart or something like that. And like, yeah, but funny thing about that though is like, I mean, like it was Mexico versus Puerto Rico, but the main competition were the last three fights, and they were 1-1 at the time. Like Puerto Rico won a fight, Mexico won a fight, and it went down to the main event, which was me and Mikey Arosa.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, it was down to us. Whoever won it for, our nation. And, I'm just saying, like, I know it was under false pretenses, but Viva Los Mexico, I won it for you guys. Let's go.
Now, did Mike give you any like lines in Spanish to use or anything? Like, no entiendo
No,
mucho
but
palabras porque mi madre de México, pero mi padre de Estados Unidos. Mi
I mean,
casa
no,
solo inglés, nothing like that.
no, no habla,
So
no
I
habla.
basically what I just said is my mom's from Mexico, but my dad's from the United States,
The
and in
funny
our
thing is,
house
like,
we only speaks English. And that's as
I
far
mean,
as I could get, but
no, and the funniest thing is like too, like we did a whole press conference and like the entire thing is in like Spanish, but like they're like, all right, if you don't want to speak Spanish, you could speak English. So then like I speak English and like literally everyone else on the table are speaking Spanish.
yeah,
And yeah, like I mean, it's not. I feel like Mike. I don't remember, but it wouldn't surprise me if like he was trying to. But like I think in me, I
yeah,
was like, dude, I'm gonna mess this up. Like I will mess it up. Like I'm not
right.
doing that. Like it's not gonna work out. So yeah, but I just remember I did a couple interviews where like they're starting off in Spanish, then all of a sudden they like go like break into English and like I got to do the interview in English. But yeah, like it was one of those things where even the promoter comes up to me, he's like, all right, we're gonna announce your name Larry DiGiulio so it doesn't sound so Italian. I was like, yeah, it's probably
Yeah,
a good idea. But yeah,
that's actually
like
funny.
that was fun. I mean, that was a great time. Puerto Rico was awesome. Like, yeah, that was a fun time. That was also 1 week, one exact week after my Nick Wayne fight. It was 1 week later.
Yes, it was February
Yeah.
11th and February 18th.
Yeah. I went from 45 and did a cut to 35 1 week later and then did that
Yeah.
one.
So later that year in June, you fight Lloyd Carter at Hoosier Fight Club. From what I remember, and I won't throw myself under the bus, but I wasn't prepared to corner. I'll just say that. I
You
think
were loud.
I think it's been like 8 years since I've since I've had like a drop of even just a sip of beer. I don't drink at all anymore. But at that time, I was just having fun. I was having a band practice that day actually, and we took a party bus to that event through LA Boxing. So I had no idea I was in your corner. I wouldn't have gotten like that like fun, I guess, if I knew I
No,
was cornering. But I just remember stumbling in and Danny saying, "Hey, come in the locker room, your corner, Larry." And I'm like,
no, like, dude, like you were funny though, like, cause I even remember you before like the fight, you were like trying to pump me up, and like I'm not gonna name any names, like, dude, I could take this guy down, but I can't take you down. Like, dude, all you gotta do is just fucking fight the way you fight, and you're gonna kill this guy. Well, I was like, all right, man, let's go. We're doing this.
I don't know. I was allowed to corner you. Oh my god! But yeah,
It was funny. I remember you had one very specific advice the entire fight. You're like, slap his arm down and throw the right. Slap his arm down and throw the right. You must have said that like 60 times throughout the entire fight, which actually it wasn't a bad move. I probably should have done it a little bit more often.
and
But yeah,
overcarrying to a cross.
exactly. Like, yeah. Yeah.
That's actually funny. So yeah, so that was one of your locals. Now, again, so for people, if you're listening in and you kind of know who Larry is, maybe you're watching it because of me or maybe him, a lot of your fights from here on out were out of town. Indiana, Iowa, a lot of Iowa. I mean, Extreme Challenge, you know, that was a big one. He fought at Pinnacle Combat. Great show.
Yeah.
I was
That
like,
was pretty cool.
I was actually just talking to Harry Maglaris today, the promoter of Pinnacle. We're working on something coming up. Like I said, a lot of out of town fights. What out of all these would you say your most memorable, and not including any of the, I'm talking about in the United States so far right now.
In the United States?
In the United States, most memorable fight / like most professional event where you're like, all right, this is like a big deal. It's a little bit step up from like the Blues Brothers looking DC Country Junction.
Right.
You
In
know?
the United States, I'm trying to think, and I probably won't even say the right one going off of memory. But bringing in Pinnacle, it's just reminded me of Pinnacle, but not that fight. There was I won the Pinnacle Combat Championship against how am I forgetting his name right now?
DJ Sakura, was that it?
DJ, yeah. I
Yep.
want to say, yeah. I was like, yeah. In fact, he got off like he beat Nick Pearson. Like the dude was the dude was good. Like, you know, dude had some good wins under his belt. You know, was on a really good streak. He was the champ. In fact, I think he just beat Lloyd Carter or something. Like, I can't remember, but the dude was on a streak. The dude was good, and that was another outdoor fight.
He did
And
beat
it was
Lloyd Carter, and he beat Joe Pearson, who was
Joe Pearson, yes. Yeah. And this was an outdoor fight, but like they filled it really good. It was like they had like Harleys, like it was like really cool event. I do remember though, like this wasn't a slip and slide, but what it was freezing. Like it was cold. Like I don't know what the actual temperature was, but like I remember like it was one of those things where like they had like little trailers for us to warm up and stuff, and like we would do it there. But that one was like really cool, and that was I believe that was my first 5-rounder, maybe my first or second 5-rounder, but that was definitely like I feel like the first like, you know, high level competition. This dude's really good. He's got good wins under him. You know, and I was able to perform really well and, you know, in front of a lot of people. And but Pinnacle was really cool. That was a really cool one. Hoosier Fight Club's always really cool. You know, HFC. I mean, I don't think they went by Hoosier Fight Club anymore. Just went by HFC. But yeah, like that was always a really good one that always had a packed house. So like, you know what I mean? Like they always filled their stadium or wherever they were fighting. So I mean, like having that, you know, many people are like, even like, you know, I can't remember how big the stadiums were, but when it's filled, like, you know, like you feel that, like, you know what I mean? Like that's cool. That's like a really cool adrenaline. So I would say like the Pinnacles and HFCs were like really cool. Yeah, I'm gonna say though that's just hard. Like XFO, I mean, yeah, the XFOs had a really cool one when I fought at what's that stadium called, Chicago?
Which one? So they've done Sears Center on Hoffman Estates, the Chicago one. They did a couple. They did
wasn't I don't
Brinicus Center was one of them.
I can't remember. I honestly I'm so bad with this. But yeah, like
early XFO or when you fought?
no, later XFO. Specifically the Joe Deal fight. Joey Deal fight. That was a cool one.
That was, man, I have the address. I actually should know what place that is, but I don't. It's at 525 South Racine.
Yeah, it's called something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like in the States, I would say like those. Pennsylvania had a cool, like was pretty cool venue. Can't remember where that was. I mean, I don't know, dude. Like, I mean, when it comes to that, like any like fight that like had a big crowd, like you you just feel that, like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's always cool because every little thing, like, you know, they may like, if you're getting hit or you hit, you get that ooh
Right.
like, you know, especially like if you're in enemy territory, like, you know, it's fun when you get the hit because like you hear that it's like, oh, but then like if you're getting hit, they're extra loud. And what kind of always worked for me is that would always piss me off. Like hearing like or getting the opponent, like if he got a decent shot in there, half the time, like it wouldn't even be a decent shot. It'd be an okay shot, but the crowd would be going nuts because, you know, that'd be their boy. And like, I remember always that was like extra motivation for like, all right, we gotta turn it up right now.
So after that DJ Sakura fight, you actually have three pretty significant fights. You have Michael Solander, which was in Finland.
Yeah.
Then you have the UFC's Cody Stamann before he was in the UFC, which in my opinion, I know that the crowd was booing like crazy after they announced you. My opinion, obviously the crowd was there for Cody, but if you watch the fight with the volume off or you don't hear the crowd or the really biased commentators, I think it's a little bit closer than what, like, if you turn the commentators on, I mean, you could have knocked the guy out with a head kick and they would still say, oh, look, Cody's doing great. He's doing,
I mean, those commentators could not stop talking about how massive Cody's legs were. And don't be
right.
wrong,
Like
the guy had big legs.
yeah,
The
it
guy
was
had big legs. But I mean, like, he'd be throwing the softest leg kicks ever. And don't worry, I'm not trying to talk shit again. I don't
right.
really like
No,
to
yeah,
shit about people.
it's,
Yeah, Cody was a good guy, you know. I mean, he did try to contest the fight, which I thought was funny. But at the same time, like the dude would be throwing the softest leg kicks and I'd be bouncing around. They'd be like, Larry's feeling those leg kicks. You could tell. I'm like this is obviously hindsight. Watch fighters. No, I wasn't. Like
right.
these were like all the damaging punches were done by me. And also that fight too is one where, like I was fighting actively 25 at the time.
Right.
Like I
Right.
was already 25 pounds at the time. We took the fight at 145. Michigan had a 3 pound allowance. We got to weigh in at 148. I cut zero weight. I basically just walked in and weighed in. He
Right.
showed up late because he was cutting weight for that fight. He had a pretty decent size advantage over me at
Mhm.
the time, like just in general. And like there's a couple times where he gets some decent, like, you know, I'm a little off balance or something. He'll like push me and it looks cool, but like I am in a guillotine where I was making him gurgle. The only hard shots were landed by me. I was landing plenty of body shots. I can't think of like really any significant shots he landed. He would be able to take me down here and there, but then I would actively get up. It's not like he was able to hold me down. I would be able to get him off or like get up from what he did.
Right.
And like I don't know, I honestly I almost feel like I may have lost all round, but like I never knew what the like when they announced my name, like you see it actually in there. I was like, yes, yes, that's exactly what happened. Because I was nervous they were going to screw me because of like the crowd.
So your next fight is actually again, you go up to Wisconsin to fight at NAFC, and you fight a guy who was pretty old school for the Northwest Indiana area, despite him being a Wisconsin guy. His debut was against Eddie Wineland back in 2004. Omar Chaudhry. He was with like the
Yeah.
original jiu-jitsu black belt in that like southern Wisconsin area, Henry Matamoros. Me at that time, I was kind of surprised Omar Chaudhry was still even fighting. I thought that was actually a pretty cool fight to have in the win column, in my opinion. The next fight after that was Tony Crowder. Now, I actually found you this opponent for a UCL event. I forgot why we did not have the event. It was rare for us to like cancel. I forgot. I don't remember what the reason was. It was probably one of two events we ever even canceled. But that fight ended up being swung over to HFC. Ends in about 25 seconds with a quick guillotine. Shoots on you, lock it up, win it. After that, was this another? I remember helping you get this fight when it comes to matchmaking. So Harry Maglaris is reaching out to a bunch of people looking for a fight for Marcel Tongvan. I first get a text from Brian Titus's manager, may Brian Titus rest in peace. His manager, Larry Hayden, he texted me saying, hey, Pinnacle's looking for a 125 pro. And I'm thinking, okay, well, Larry needs fights. I said, who's the opponent? And his response is, and I quote, some Tong guy. Those three words, some Tong guy. And I'm like, I just texted Harry Maglaris after. I'm like, all right, who's? I'm getting some Tong guy from Larry. Who are you looking for? So then he fills me in on it. It's Marcel Tongvan. That goes to a split decision. I was not there for it. Can you give me a quick rundown on that?
Yeah. Wait, that was a split decision?
That's what MMA.tv has. That's what I
I'm
was.
gonna say I don't know if that's accurate because that was a pretty. Don't get me wrong. Again, cool dude, like a nice guy, but like no, I won that one pretty handily. I think I knocked him down twice, like
Yeah.
in the fight, and like that was one of those ones where I was a little upset at myself, where like I feel like I had a couple opportunities where I should have like pulled the trigger, like kind of rushed it after it looked like I hurt him, and just didn't do that. Kind of more just was like sticking with just like good technique, looking for like clean punches, but. Yeah, no, like I remember that one. That was because he was also DJ Sakura's teammate. Yeah, because they were what I can't remember Overdrive. What team was that again?
That may have been
Um,
the name. I don't really remember.
yeah, but I remember they were teammates, so I knew a little bit about him too, or at least like kind of like I know he was like pretty flashy too. He liked to throw like some like flashy stuff and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I remember being pretty dominant in regards to the stand up and like just I thought I won every round on that one. So yeah, if it says split decision, I don't know, maybe it was. I can't remember, but I thought I remembered that was one of my like better performances where thought I actually handled that one pretty good.
So at this time, it's kind of hard for you to find local fights. You're traveling everywhere. Like I said, all over the place at this point. Illinois wasn't really hosting that many pro fights as they're not now. I mean, it's difficult for most promoters. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'll say nice things, but uh, if there were pro events in Indiana, it was like filling out a job application when everyone's trying for that one position that they're trying to fill. So you know what I mean. So Northwest Indiana. So you're kind of stuck fighting all over the place. All right, but you do land a local fight, which this now it was like, was this main event? Was your Joey Deal fight main event that night or no?
I don't believe so. No, no, the main event was
Okay.
I can't remember, but no, it wasn't me. Maybe I might have been co-main, but I can't remember who the main was then. I think we were co-main.
Um,
It was near the end, but no, it definitely wasn't me.
it was Manny Vasquez versus Corey Galloway. I
That's
remember
right.
that.
Yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
remember that. That's right.
Um, co-main event was Dave Sachs versus Joe Pearson. Um, then right before that was you. That
Okay.
was one of those fights that could have, should have been booked at any time, but finally did, because it was two locals in the same weight class. And like I said, a lot of these others were getting those feature fights where it's this guy from this gym. That's what
Hey, do you want me to move to like a room with better light? Like, I know it's getting dark and I don't have a light in this room.
it's up to you.
I mean, it's up to you. I mean, like, does it look bad?
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, okay, yeah, let's get
I
my
can
bad.
hear
Like,
you just fine. So
all
yeah,
right, good.
that was one of those fights where it's like, okay, this is actually a cool fight. I was looking for that. I wasn't able to go. I don't remember why. One of the few fights that I didn't make it to, probably a work related thing, but that was an exciting one. Now, right after that, you get picked up by World Series of Fighting Global. You win against Marcelo Abramo at World Series of Fighting Global 3. This is in the Philippines. Did you fight in Japan before that? Are they missing something on your record?
Yeah, no, they are. That's out of order or because that was my second World Series of Fighting
Yeah.
fight. The first one was against that Yusaku Nakamura in Japan.
Okay. Let's talk about that one then.
Also, I think his name was Marcel like Adur or something. I don't know if that
That was him.
spelling's right,
Yeah,
or I'm
I
not
remember
sure.
that name. You fought Marcella Durr at let's see, at World Series of Fighting Global 3 was
Yeah.
Marcelo Durr in the Philippines. He was at a shoot
Yep.
box from Brazil. Okay, so you fight Yusaku Nakamura at World Series of Fighting 2. Was this in Tokyo?
Yeah, that was in
Yeah,
Tokyo.
Tokyo Dome actually. Okay, I see the poster right here. Um, let's talk about Japan for a second. That's all that's been on my mind like crazy. I'm learning Japanese. I'm planning my half of my phone is screenshots of Tokyo because that's where I'm doing my honeymoon is
Nice.
is Japan. So what did you learn any Japanese? Did you have any clue what you were doing out there when you got out there?
I mean, so luckily I went with Danny. He's been out there a couple times already, so he was like our guide. Like I mean, like Danny's fought in Japan. The few guys have fought in Japan, so like he knew me. No, I knew that when you go into something, you say "simi say." That was about it. And I love sushi, and I wanted like authentic Japanese sushi. So like that was like all that I didn't know anything, but like I love Japan. Japan was awesome. Like both times I went there, I absolutely loved being there. Like the culture is really cool. Everyone's super polite. Everything's really like clean. Um, there's a lot to do. Like I really wish like I need to go back and like actually vacation, like instead of like, because when you go overseas, like when you're fighting, like you get to have a little bit of fun, but it is a business trip overall. And
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like you're cutting weight, you're making weight, you're performing, you get a little bit to do a little something. But Japan was just so cool. Like we went to, I wish I could remember these areas better, but like, or the names of them, I mean, but like we went to like some area where like it's just like, I don't know, it's like video game heaven, like where there's like all like action figure stuff, anime stuff.
It
I
was
got to see a
probably
giant Gundam
Electric
wing.
Town.
Yeah, no, it's definitely because I mean everything was like lit up and everything, but like Japan itself was just like awesome. Like that was really cool. Got to see the Hachi statue. If anyone's seen the movie Hachiko, really sad movie, but there's a statue of the dog. Uh, like it's just like yeah, Japan was awesome. It's really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
Electric Town. If it was that, it's Akihabara. That's
that
where.
sounds about it.
Yeah, yeah, that's on my list to go to. Shinjuku is where we're gonna stay. That's a very popular area.
Yeah.
Shibuya, a lot of cool places out there. I'm looking forward to. Was there much of a cultural shock when you were there?
I mean, not so much a shock because like I was kind of like aware it was going to be different, like I'm not like, I've already been to like Finland at the time and stuff. And like, I mean, I knew like there was going to be a difference. So I wouldn't say a cultural shock. It was just cool. I do though, like it was funny. Like, I guess like something that was like kind of a cultural shock is like very specific things. Like, so I had, I was a weight cutter. I was making 125. Like, and so I had to cut weight at the gym and you don't wear like shoes in the locker room. Like it's disrespectful. So like I go into the gym, normally, and I'm in the locker room, and all of a sudden some like old guy like just looks at me and goes, "No shoes," and I'm like, "What?" Like no shoes, and I'm like, "Okay." And I took my shoes off, and like all of a sudden some other guy comes up to me and like he sounded exactly like George Takai, like exactly like him, but spoke English, and like he was literally like, "Yeah, so like here, you don't wear shoes in here. It's like known as like unhealthy, I guess, or
Yeah,
unsanitary."
yeah,
And there would even be dudes in the gym working out without shoes.
yeah,
Like they just have like their socks on and stuff. And I'm cutting weight. And so like I have on my sauna suit and I'm doing my workout and everything. Every now and then I'd go to the water fountain to just wash out my mouth. Like I'm not drinking it because I'm cutting the water weight. But there would be a dude who would literally be following me with a mop, wiping up like the sweat that's like
yeah,
dripping from my, and I'm like, and I turn around like, "Oh, I'm sorry." He's like, "No, no," like they didn't speak English. Not very many people in Japan actually speak English. At
yeah,
least I didn't run into him. And he's like, I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." He's like, "No, no problem." Like kind of like, I don't think he actually said no problem, but like, kind of gave me like a nice smile, like
right.
letting me know it was no problem. But like it was just like things like that were kind of fun. It was like, oh, okay, shoes are bad. Don't like, and like they really like kept everything clean.
Were you on public transit out there at
Oh
all?
yeah. And that's another thing. Public transit runs like on time to like the second.
Right.
Like there was an earthquake actually the first time we went down there. It wasn't like a big one or anything, but it caused the trains to like slow down. Like I think a train was late by like 6 minutes and like they made a giant apology over the intercom, like apologizing for being like 6 minutes late and everything like that. Like
Yeah.
everything was to the T on time.
And,
Also, I
and
found it interesting. Like, no, so I'm just going back. Like, no one really like English wasn't big there, but like all the billboards were in English. It was always weird. Like, I thought that was weird.
yeah, it's for the tourists.
Yeah.
Some little things I picked up just researching is they like it if somebody goes up and attempts to speak Japanese first before their attempt in English.
Ah,
I guess on the public transit, nobody really talks. Like it's
yeah. No,
quiet,
that's another thing. You're not supposed
very
to talk
quiet.
on the public transit. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. There's actually I'm in a bunch of these travel Japan groups on Facebook. Someone posted, which I don't think they should have made the video, but somebody posted like two American tourists talking really loud when you could clearly see everybody. Like I
Yeah.
wouldn't
Yeah.
want to be that person, but they just didn't really pick up the vibe. Like, hey, it's really quiet. Should I even stick out? But
Right. Right.
anyway,
Right.
so yeah, you fight in the Philippines against Marcelo Dur. You get a rematch with Nakamura, and that was in Japan again, right? Or no?
Yeah. That was also in Japan.
Okay, so that
Second
was the
time.
second time going. Your next fight is another local fight at Hoosier Fight Club. So it's at what is this? HFC 33. Mark Sankey. Now, this was a fight. I don't know if you knew, but we were trying to get you this fight a long time before that because he was managed by Jeremy Bjornberg at the time of SEG at the time, a long time ago, back when he ran Driller. That was a fight that I actually, when you and I went out to Pinnacle to fight, or sorry, to corner Kenny Jordan,
Yeah.
Mark Sankey was there, and Harry mentioned him. Hey, this is a 125er. Talk to Jeremy. He's looking for fights. So we were trying to do that fight already way back then. It just never really came about. Did you remember knowing who he was from that or no?
No, I didn't know much about him at all. That's actually interesting because like no, I didn't know much about him. I knew like he was like he had like an official ranking at the time.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of what I knew most. Like I mean, I was at that time I was the number one ranked, well, according to Tapology. I was the number one ranked middleweight by Tapology. I think he was like 16th or something. So like I didn't know too much about him. But yeah, that fight actually was so like that fight, when I came back from Japan, I used to have two side jobs while fighting. I worked at Dino's Liquor, like as just a clerk, and then also I did a little part-time job where I watched people's animals while they went on vacation. Called it Larry's Puppies and Pals.
Mhm.
But I watched this one dog where they were rescue dogs, but like the rescue dogs were both fight dogs. Or one was a bait dog, one I think was a fight dog that was like saved, and they couldn't be in the same room with each other. And something, and long story short, I ended up getting bit. And he didn't attack me, he more redirected on me. But I ended up getting bit in the hand. And so I was off for a while my hand was recovering. And I remember when I got that fight, I was exactly 37 pounds over with 1 month until weigh in. So I had to cut 37 pounds in a month for that fight. And that's actually what I really remember is like that big weight cut. That's probably the biggest cut I've ever done. Where I think I got to like eight. Yeah, I did. I got to 18 pounds over the day before, and I did an 18-pound water cut from the day before to weigh-ins.
So your last fight, Sean Santella. From what I remember leading up to that fight, obviously we knew who he was. We knew he was a Ricardo Almeida guy, good
Yeah,
on the ground. With the exception of Adam Ward kind of popping in here and there when he could, which may have been once a week at the time, not even. Most of your training was just with me and Joey. It was at a time when the room was kind of empty.
yeah. It was you, Joey. I think Rob Morrow, and
Yeah.
like yeah, like it was either like real heavyweights and then like a couple other guys.
Was that much of a frustration for you, knowing that you had like a pretty important fight, especially it was originally supposed to be on Dana White's looking for a fight?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't frustrating. Frustrating is the wrong word. Because I'm gonna try to prepare the best I can, no matter what. And like, and don't get me wrong, I've been through like, we were, Gilbert's is like was a smaller gym. We were not like, a big level, everyone coming in gym, and we went through these, I don't know what you want to call them, droughts a lot. So it's nothing I'd never been through before. Now, don't be wrong, this was a bigger fight for like, bad timing. You know what I'm saying? Like for it to be going through at that time.
Right.
But at the same time, like I prepared the best I could. It was just one of those things where like, it would have been, definitely having like a more fuller room, getting a more like complete, like kind of like training atmosphere definitely would have been more beneficial. But I don't want to say it was frustrating. It was more just like, this is what we're dealing with. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, yeah.
Um, was after that, what has life been like? So we went through obviously not all your 30 plus fights, but we went through most of them. Just a good description of your fight career. After that, obviously that was your last fight. Was there ever a moment where like I really need to get back in there or no?
Uh, yeah. I mean, you gave me enough beers, and I was like, dude, I could fucking do it again. I could do this again. But like that last fight too, like it was even going. that last fight, like I wasn't planning exactly on retiring after that last fight, but there was something where I realized my mindset wasn't the same as it once was. Even going into that last fight, like at the fight, I was having to force excitement.
Right.
Like it was one of those feelings where like, and I hate it to this day, where it's just like I was just like I almost had the mindset where like obviously I know this is wrong, but it's like I just want to get this one over with. You know,
Yeah,
like I
I
just
know. I know the.
yeah, like you know what I mean? Like it was just one of those things where like, all right, man, get this win, but get this win. I had the mindset, get this win over with, and we'll get the next one, which is still like the worst possible mindset you could have going into the fight. You need to be ready, you need to be excited, you know, to be like, all right, let's fucking go. But I was just like I was trying to force the excitement, trying to force like, what used to come to me so naturally. Like, and it was one of those things. And after, and obviously I got choked unconscious that fight. And I remember waking up like and realizing exactly like I knew where I was. I was like those things like, oh my God, where am I? Like all of a sudden, like I woke up. But like even getting like in the triangle, I remember being like, all right, I'm in a triangle. I'm gonna let this guy tire himself out. And then like instead of being like, all right, like let's get improved position. Like I remember being like, you got fucking lazy. And like, and then next thing I know, I wake up and I remember just thinking, I can't believe that happened. And then I even think I like at the time, I was 31 years old. I was still living at home. And I just had to like, dude, like I need to get a real job. I need to be independent. And like that was kind of just I was like, all right, we might need to make a change. And before then it was just like, no, dude, I'm a fighter. I want to fight. I'm gonna make it. But that was like the last fight that like kind of was just like, I don't think I have the desire anymore. And things changed, and then I started working. I got a job. My sister-in-law actually helped me get me a job at a telecommunications company. And one thing I'll say is being an MMA fighter my whole life, like I developed an extremely good work ethic. Like,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like I really put everything I have into something when I, have direction and what to do. And I was able to move up pretty quickly at this telecom company. And like even there though, like I still here and there I was like, I could still fight, but like, you're taking the train to the city, you're coming back real late, you can barely make it to practice. Like you might make it to like the last hour of practice if you make it then. And it was just one of those things where it was like I think I'm moving on to the next chapter of my life.
So I'm going to do a couple of quick rounds for you, and then we'll wrap it up. We just got a couple minutes left. Um, just kind of like a speed round. Fight that, or I should say, opponent, or however you want to word it. Fight opponent that you wanted but never got, if there is one.
Or without going like, Demetrius Johnson or anything like that. I was never big with picking opponents. Let me think. Uh who was I can't remember his name. I always thought I just would have matched up well against him. Who was the guy? Oh God, why am I forgetting his name? He shit. I'm gonna forget his name. I can't remember it. He had longer hair. I'm trying to think of like an opponent of his or like something that
Local or national?
no, not national. He made it to the UFC and everything.
Oh,
Like, are we talking local? Local wise, I feel like I
anybody,
fought most.
anyone.
Oh yeah, I'll say local wise, I feel like I fought mostly everybody. Oh, you know what? Miguel Torres would have been fun.
So that's actually what I was going to ask.
Yeah, my
So
bad. Miguel Torres would have been a fun one. Or Eddie Wineland.
we we booked Miguel Torres for his final fight against Lloyd Carter. So I was going to ask if that would have been an interest for you to take if Lloyd didn't. Um, let's go. You're in your prime. You're training for one of your biggest fights, whether it's an international fight or a big local one. You get a free round trip for 2 weeks to train at any gym in the country. Which one do you pick?
Oh, that's a good one. Um, you know what? I mean, everyone's doing it, but I still think there's Henry Cejudo out in Arizona. I'd
Yeah,
like to, yeah. I just think he's got a really good, a way better mind for fighting than like I originally anticipated when he first got into fighting. You could tell that dude's just a straight up athlete and like just gets athletics and like you throw him in anything, he's gonna break it down and like. I think that'd be a fun one, especially just, I mean, it's cool to train with like an Olympic caliber wrestler and everything.
yeah, like Billy Wheeler. Last, all right, last he is over there. All right, last one.
No, no, I still talk to Billy. Yeah, me and
Last
Billy are
one
boys,
for
man.
he's there. I see his pictures.
Yeah.
Um, last one for you. throughout your time at G2, who is the one training partner where you would be matched up with? Or like, oh shit, I really don't want to have to. And I don't mean in a bad way, like fuck this asshole. I mean like this guy's he's really gonna push me hard. Like the toughest one that you would say where you're like, fuck, this is gonna suck for the next 5 minutes.
Oh, I mean, probably Kenny Jordan. I mean,
Really?
dude, like, yeah, rolling with that dude, like, fucking, he has no off button.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? He goes at you hard as shit, and like, he always came at you hard. I mean, there's actually a few dudes. Funny, like, you know what? Like, Carson Beebe used to always push hard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would get Kevin Canaption's another one. Like, I got a bunch actually of that. Like,
Yeah.
there were dudes like whenever they showed up, Kevin Canaption. I remember like, I would throw probably like 500 punches in a sparring match against Kevin because like I had to. Like, you know what I
Mm.
mean? Like it was just one of those things where like there are certain dudes where they really like made you push yourself. I don't know if it was just their style or the way their style matched up against mine. But like, sorry, I picked three, but honestly, those three like really always pushed me pretty good. Like Carson Beebe, Chase Beebe too. But like it
Mm.
was just I just always remember like, damn, like even if I'm doing well against them, they would make me tired as hell, like just from like, you know, just like having to push the pace and having to go. But like, yeah, Carson, Kenny, and who's my third?
Carson Kenny and Kevin Canabjian.
Oh, Canaption, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
fucking yeah.
always wish I could take myself now and put myself in that room in 2009 and put my like jujitsu versus the really high wrestling. I think that would make for some really fun matches, you know.
Yeah, I mean those always make good matchups. Jiu-jitsu versus wrestling has been like the battle of the ages for years now. So like yeah, that would be fun.
Right. All right, Larry, I appreciate you coming on. It was a good one.
No, this was fun, man. Thanks a lot, dude. Appreciate it.
All right, we're signing out.